Hello everyone, and welcome back to Royal Coin Value, my YouTube channel. If you love rare coins, in the year 2000, the United States Mint introduced a brand new coin that was meant to become the everyday dollar of the new millennium. It was called the Sacagawea Dollar, and it featured something the U.S. coinage had never shown before: a portrait of a Native American woman with her infant child. When it was released, the Sacagawea Dollar had a lot of attention. It was brightly golden in color, made from a clad mix of copper, zinc, manganese, and nickel, and it looked completely different from the older Susan B. Anthony dollar that had been criticized for being too similar in size and appearance to a quarter. The Sacagawea was designed to be distinct, attractive, and symbolic of American history and diversity. On the front, or obverse, of the 2000 Sacagawea, we see Sacagawea herself, the Shoshone woman who guided the Lewis and Clark expedition in the early 1800s. She is shown in a three-quarter profile, looking back over her shoulder, with her infant son Jean-Baptiste carried on her back. This design, created by artist Glenna Goodecker, was both tender and powerful. It represented motherhood, guidance, and courage. The reverse of the coin, for the year 2000, displayed an eagle in flight with 17 stars encircling it, representing the states in the Union at the time of the Lewis and Clark expedition. That eagle design, created by Thomas D. Rogers, was used only for the early years of the series before the Mint began changing the reverse annually in 2009. The particular coin we are discussing today is the 2000p Sacagawea Dollar. That p mint mark tells us it was struck at the Philadelphia Mint, one of the major coin-producing facilities in the United States. And here's an important detail. The Philadelphia Mint struck over 767 million of these coins in the year 2000 alone. With a mintage that high, we know right away that the 2000p Sacagawea Dollar is not rare in terms of how many were made. In fact, it's one of the most common issues in the entire Sacagawea series. But when it comes to coins, rarity isn't the only factor that matters. Condition plays an enormous role in determining value. The coin we are focusing on today is described as being in very fine condition. What does that mean? In coin grading, very fine, often abbreviated as VF, is a middle grade. It tells us the coin has been in circulation and has obvious wear, but all of the major features are still intact. On a Sacagawea Dollar in VF condition, Sacagawea's face and hair will still be recognizable, though the finer details may be softened. Her son Jean-Baptiste will still be visible in the carrier on her back, and the lettering around the rim will remain clear. On the reverse, the eagle will be easy to see. The wings and feathers will still be distinguishable, but much of the small feather detail will be worn smooth. A coin like this has clearly been used in everyday transactions, passed through many hands, but it still carries the beauty of the design. So the big question is, how much is a 2000p Sacagawea Dollar in very fine condition worth today? The honest answer is that, because of the massive mintage, most 2000p coins are still only worth about face value when heavily worn, and in very fine condition they are only slightly more desirable to collectors. In most cases, you can expect a VF 2000p Sacagawea Dollar to sell for about $1 to $5. The majority of sales actually cluster toward the lower end of that range, around $2 to $3, simply because so many examples are out there. If you bundle them in small lots or rolls, you may get a little more per coin, but for single coins the value is modest. Now, that might sound disappointing, but there are exceptions that make this story exciting. Within the 2000 issue, there are some very famous varieties and error coins. One of them is known as the Cheerios Dollar. Back when the Mint launched the Sacagawea, it partnered with General Mills to include special 2000 dated dollars inside Cheerios cereal boxes as a promotion. Around 5,000 of those coins were struck with a special, highly detailed eagle tail design. These Cheerios dollars are extremely rare and highly collectible, often selling for several $1,000s when authenticated and in high grade. Another group of incredibly valuable coins are the mule errors. A mule is a coin struck with mismatched dies, and in this case, Some Sacagawea dollars were accidentally struck with a Washington quarter obverse. These mules are among the most famous modern U.S. mint errors and can sell for tens of thousands of dollars at auction. It's important to note that a standard 2000p in very fine condition is not one of these rare types. But the existence of these errors adds to the mystique and collector interest in the year 2000 Sacagawea. If you suspect you have something unusual, for example, a coin that looks different on one side, has extra detail on the eagle, or shows doubling or misstriking, do not clean it or try to improve it. Leave it as is and consider having it examined by a professional coin dealer or submitted to a grading service like PCGS or NGC. Cleaning or altering a coin almost always lowers its value. Collectors want originality, even if the coin is worn. Speaking of grading services, let us talk about whether you should send a very fine 2000p Sacagawea in for grading. For most coins of this type, the answer is no. Grading fees can easily cost more than the coin is worth. And since a VF coin of this date and mint typically only sells for a few dollars, you would end up spending more than you could ever get back. Professional grading makes sense only for high-grade uncirculated examples, special varieties, or error coins. For an ordinary very fine piece, it's best just to enjoy it as part of your collection. Let us also touch on the subject of selling and buying. If you decide to sell a 2000p Sacagawea in very fine condition, your best bet is to list it online as part of a small group or to sell directly to someone who is collecting the series. Take clear photos that show the obverse and reverse. Make sure the mint mark is visible, and be honest about the condition. Don't describe it as rare or valuable if it's just a normal circulated coin, because experienced collectors know the market and overhyping will only discourage buyers. If you're rebuying, remember that these are plentiful coins, so be patient and compare prices. Unless you are hunting for an error or special variety, you should never pay more than a few dollars for a circulated VF 2000p. Another tip for collectors is to store these coins properly. The Sacagawea dollars have a distinctive golden color, but they are not made of gold. They are copper-based and can tarnish or darken if exposed to moisture or air over long periods. To preserve them, keep them in a 2x2 flip, a capsule, or a coin album that is free of PVC, which can damage the surface over time. Now let us step back and look at the bigger picture. Why do people still ask about the 2000p Sacagawea dollar? The answer is that it was the very first year of a bold new coin design, one that broke ground by putting Sacagawea on U.S. coinage. Even though it's common, it holds a special place in the history of American money. For collectors, owning a 2000p Sacagawea is like owning a piece of that story. The launch of the golden dollar, the partnership with Cheerios, the publicity campaigns, and even the fascinating tales of mules and errors. So here's the final word. If you're holding a 2000p Sacagawea dollar in very fine condition, in today's market, it is realistically worth between 1 and 5 U.S. dollars, most often around 2 or 3. It's not a treasure in itself, but it is still a coin with meaning. And it's always worth taking a second look to see if it might be one of the special varieties or errors. And beyond the price, it's a coin that celebrates a remarkable woman, her role in American history, and a bold attempt by the U.S. mint to revive the use of the dollar coin at the turn of the millennium.